Hello and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be looking at this, which is my Suhr Classic S. Now, for those of you familiar with either this channel or my social media, you'll probably guess by now that I'm a big fan of Strats. I never started out playing Strats when I was younger. It's something that I've adopted in more recent years. And the Strat that I've played for the past 4 or 5 years was my Fender American original 60s Stratocaster. That guitar was something that I specifically opted for at the time, because at the time I was playing bluesier, cleaner style of guitar for my solo music. It was prior to my band Lockdown Company, which is more hard rock, had become a really prominent part of my playing. And the American original stood out to me because it was vintage inspired rather than being vintage accurate. It had a nitro finish, a slightly curvier fretboard radius, vintage style tuners, vintage style pickups. And to all intents and purposes, I've really enjoyed owning and playing that guitar. It's played a really prominent role in both my solo releases and my band, and I've posted God knows how many Strat-a-day jams in that time. However, that guitar always had a few niggles. Not long after I bought it, it developed a few problems with the electronics where the bridge pickup just completely cut out for a while. Magically, it came back out of the blue. It always had scratchy pots and pickup selections, and you could say that those are easy fixes, but it's not quite something you'd expect from a £1,500 USA-made Fender. Coupled with the fact I couldn't quite dial in the action exactly how I like it. I like a fairly low action, and that guitar I struggled to get that action with the fretboard radius without the strings really choking out. So I was always playing at a higher action. And again, some of you might say, well, a vintage style Strat, you've got to battle it, you've got to fight with it. You've got to really dig in and give it some to get the best out of it, which is what I did. But over time, I realized that it wasn't the most comfortable guitar for me. This led me to then think about some alternatives. I love the Strat vibe, and those of you that are into the Strat will know what that is. But I wanted something ultimately that was more comfortable to play and more reliable. Now, I'd shortlisted a few potential models that could do that Strat thing sonically that I wanted, but also had great build quality and playability. Suhr was definitely a brand that I was aware of but had no experience playing before, so I went to Guitar in Camden and tried out a few Classic S models that they had in stock. One was this maple necked version, another was a rosewood necked version, and finally there was one where the body was made out of Paulina, and that was super light. Now, all three were fantastic, impeccable build quality, played beautiful, but there was something about this first one that I tried that just had that articulation and had that attack that the other models didn't have. And we're talking super nuanced here, so it could well have just had some fresher strings on it, but there was something I couldn't get over about this particular guitar. Please excuse the cliche, but this plays like absolute butter. It's so smooth to play. It's got impeccable build quality. There isn't a blemish on this. It really reminds me of the PRS finish, the PRS build quality that I'm super familiar with. But what it's got is a vibe as well. It does that Strat thing. It has that Strat tonal personality. But because it's HSS, it can do so much more. The bridge itself is so much more stable, the strings stay in tune so much better than my old guitar. The setup and the action straight from the store was perfect. I've never had any issues with the electronics, with scratchy pots or anything like that. So it's basically the Strat, but zero compromise. And going back to the American original, I had a mindset when I bought that guitar. The mindset was, I wanted something vintage inspired. I wanted something bona fide Fender. And those kind of subjective factors were really important to me at the time. I felt like having something vintage accurate or close to the vintage thing was gonna make me feel like I was going down the right path of being a bluesy guitarist. But in reality, my priorities have changed over the past few years. Since I've been gigging more with my band and playing heavier music, I have a real need for something to be built well and to be reliable, to be tonally great and do the things tonally that I want, but ultimately something that's just going to be way easier and more enjoyable to me to play. And those subjective reasons, it's saying Fender on the headstock or having a nitro finish, those things are just nowhere near as important to me anymore. There are other priorities that I have now, hence why I upgraded from my Fender to this Suhr. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell anyone that need to go for a Suhr or a Tom Anderson, something that's a more expensive alternative to a Fender because Fenders don't play as well or they aren't built as well. I'm talking about my experience with these particular individual guitars. Over time, my preferences and priorities have changed, and actually more objective things to me, like reliability and versatility of tone and build quality, hold higher importance than the subjective things that I really valued previously. Now, this guitar has been properly road tested. I've played a couple of gigs with it. I'm recording with it a lot for our latest EP with Lockdown Company, and I'm yet to find anything about it that just isn't quite right. Dare I say it's on the road to being a new number one? I don't know. Anyway, I hope this was interesting, kind of a quick look as to why I traded in my Fender for this Suhr. For those of you that are Suhr fans already, you probably get what I'm talking about here. For those of you that are maybe looking for an alternative to a Fender, I would strongly suggest trying these out. It's not going to be for everyone, but it certainly was for me. So, hope you enjoyed this again, and until next time, I'll catch you later.